SDFC had a tough stretch of games, 3 games in 7 days, which takes a toll. We played Sporting Kansas City, the third worst team in the Western Conference, and their last 3 games prior to SDFC, they have 0 wins. But it was not meant to be, as SDFC could not score any goals, and the game ended in a 0-0 draw. But it really almost feels like this was a loss. What happened this game, and why could we not get the win? Did Mikey Varas set up the team for success, or did he put the team in a tough situation? What does it mean for SDFC in the standings? Yo, welcome back. This is the Penalty Kick Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Gio, and my bad for all the late postings these past couple weeks. Just like SDFC, I had a packed schedule, but we all just trying to make it happen. I'm going to get right into it and right into this game. I'm going to throw up some stats, and nothing stands out too much, kind of ordinary possession stats. But if you look at the possession stats, that's a win for us. If you look at the shooting stats, that's a win for us. Shots and shots on goal, a win. And if you look at XG, expected goal, another win, but we tied the game. I've said this in prior episodes. There are times a draw feels like a win, but there's also ties that feel like a loss. And this one, to me, very much felt like a loss. Holding Sporting Kansas City to a 0.1 expected goal and having a 1.4 expected goal for the good shows me that we were the most likely to score, that we were the better team, but we couldn't make it happen. And considering this is the third worst team in the Western Conference and we're coming off a hot streak of wins, we dropped 2 points this game. Whereas I'm sure Sporting Kansas City is looking at it like, yes, we got a point even though we had 0.1 XG. That point was good for them. That point was not good for us. I was not at this game. And, you know, when you're at the game, it's very exciting. You're maybe with your friends, your loved ones, other fans. You got the away fans cheering. And so the games, when you're there, are always exciting. But I was at my mom's house for a belated Mother's Day, and I was watching the game on my phone. And I just remember watching the game and being like, this game is boring. And I'm not saying that there weren't chances. I'm not saying that there weren't exciting moments and good moments here and there. But if you looked at the 90 minutes in totality, a lot of it was played in midfield. It was kind of sloppy. Our squad looked off. It looked like they weren't on the same page. Other than maybe the first 15 minutes of halves, we didn't look good throughout this game. Maybe we looked good at the end of the game when we had some subs, but we'll get back into that in a moment. But the first 15 minutes, I was like, okay, we're back on the front foot. The intensity's there. Chucky had a shot from distance to force a save. And then Chucky had this beautiful through ball to Dreer, and then Dreer just dragged the shot wide. I think he should have scored that. And I'm sure if you asked him, he would say he should have scored that as well. But after those first 15 minutes in the first half, things got leggy. You could see the players really dip in their intensity levels, dip in their runs and their effort. And that's just what it is when you play so many people 3 games in 1 week. It's just so tough. At the end of the second half, we did have a corner kick that was kind of bounced around and Yepe got a head on it. But the goalkeeper, it was easy save for goalkeeper. But other than that, you really didn't have very, very many highlights. You didn't have these outstanding goal scoring opportunities. And again, a lot of it was sloppy. Then you look at the beginning of the second half. Again, the first 15 minutes of the second half, it looked like we got our legs back because the players got a little bit of rest during halftime. Mighton charges through the defense and then, tries to cut back the ball, deflected by the keeper. And then Luca De La Torre does this mini bicicleta kick, but not enough power, and it was able to be stopped. Then McVeigh had this long range effort, which was a blast of a shot and so close. So big shout out to McVeigh for a great shot. But that's what happened in the first 15 minutes of the second half. And again, then just a complete drop off in our legs, just a complete drop off in our intensity. And yeah, we might have had some, half chances, some scrappy play, but really that for me came when we brought in subs and then we had fresh legs. So looking at this game, yeah, we were the better team, no question. Do we deserve the win? Probably, but we just couldn't finish. There was no fluidity of play. Players weren't on the same page or locked in, and players couldn't run as hard because it was almost physically impossible to play 9 of the same players 3 games in 7 days. I don't blame the players for this at all. Even though there was some sloppiness, even though maybe Dreer should have finished, I don't blame them. I don't blame them because there was a lack of rest, which affected their play on the pitch. Absolutely. Playing that intensity, 3 games, 7 days is insane. You do need to make switches on these lineups. And I said this in my prior episode, especially, it was the post game for Colorado. We played St. Louis. We had 3 days break, and then we played Colorado. And I thought there was going to be some rotations because 3 days break isn't, very long at all, especially after you play professional, intense soccer, right? Going from one game to the next is a lot. 3 days rest is not enough. But we did get the win at Colorado, and Colorado is a solid team. So I kind of understand where Mikey Varas is coming from and the reasoning behind kind of playing that same lineup 3 days rest. But in that same episode, in that past episode that I posted, I said, okay, well, now Mikey Varas has to make changes. He doesn't have a choice, really. But he didn't make any changes. And there was only 2 days rest in between the Colorado game and the Sporting Kansas City game. I have to give a big shout out to Ricardo. He sent me the lineup, and I looked at it, and I was absolutely shocked for this game at Sporting Kansas City. The only change we made was Willy Verhoeven. I will say Verhoeven played well. I don't remember him, on the tape in the sense of making any mistakes. He was very solid, but 3 games in 7 days and only 1 change, I will maybe give a break because Mighton was out injured 1 game. So Mighton can kind of, only play 2 of those games. But that to me is insane. How do you not switch up this team and ask your players to put that much into it physically, and then you ask them to stay locked in mentally that much? That is really, really difficult. And to me, I was like, you had to maybe make at least 3 changes. 3 changes to me seemed reasonable, but even anywhere from 3 to 5 changes, especially considering you're playing the 3rd worst team. If you're going to make changes, this is a perfect game to do so, especially for those players that might be around 30 years old. Godoy, first one subbed off, but maybe he could have taken a step back. Maybe Chucky didn't have to play as long as Chucky played. I just think Mikey Varas had the players do something really, really difficult, and I don't put the blame on the players at all. I think Mikey Varas needed to make more changes so that more players could be mentally alert, so that more players could be more physical on the field, more intense on the field, because that is just tough. And you're doing 3 different scouting reports. You're playing 3 different teams. So to stay mentally locked in is just as tough as staying physically well, which could have led to some injuries. And I'm very thankful that didn't happen. I think Mikey Varas put the team in a tough situation, but also I watched Mikey Varas's interview. He said, you got to take a look back. You got to take a step back. In these 3 games, they earned 7 points. Absolutely. Mikey Varas is right. 7 points out of 3 games is really good. Again, when you're playing the 3rd worst team, I still would have liked to see some rest because rest is hard to come by throughout the season. So you have to make difficult decisions and make those changes. Another thing that bothered me was that the substitution pattern was off. Again, when you have these many players playing 3 games in 7 days, you should probably take at least 3-4 off around, the 50th, 60th minute. We had 1 substitution in the 60th minute, and Godoy came off. He's 35-year-old. I understand that. But I would have figured more players would have come off in that moment. And then our next round of substitutions did not happen until the 72nd minute and then the 81st minute. That was just a little bit too late with tired legs, short breaks, not having fresh legs on the field, I think did hurt us this game. And if you looked at the end of the game, when those subs came on 72nd minute and 81st minute, we were really attacking the goal. We were getting a lot of corner kicks. We were getting a lot of scrappy chances in front of goal. But again, it was way too late to make that substitution pattern. I do want to see Mikey Varas grow as a coach, and I think he is. Let us not forget, and don't let me forget. This is Mikey Varas' first professional head coaching position. He did have 2 games with the U.S. men's national team when Berhalter got fired for the second time. Still such a comical situation, but that's beside the point. This is his first time at a head coaching position, being the full-time person that is making all these decisions. I think situationally, he'll continue to improve, because if you haven't been put in these situations before, you don't know what to do quite yet. So I think he will continue to grow. I think he is an absolutely phenomenal coach. So don't get it twisted. I'm not saying he's a bad coach, but I am saying it was pretty stark not to see any changes happen. And then even that substitution pattern. Again, we took 7 points from 3 games. In the standings now, we dropped from 2nd to 3rd. So not a big fall off, but still that does put pressure in a packed Western Conference. The Western Conference is hitting heavy this year. We could have stayed in 2nd. We would have had, obviously 2 additional points, and we would have only been 2 points off the leaders of Vancouver, even though Vancouver has a game in hand. Hey, we're doing great. And San Diego is again showing that we are a soccer city, that our team is a contender. But let's continue to climb the standings. Let's continue to try to push towards the top. I'm Mike Gio, and I will see y'all in the next pregame episode. I'm going back to the pregame episode. Sorry for not getting some of those this week, against LA Galaxy. We play LA Galaxy this coming Saturday. Let's get that dub. Let's make sure that everyone knows that we are the kings of SoCal.